What's up guys, Red Icing Guy back again, and it's time for another prediction video. I'm not as good as I thought at prediction videos, as we've seen in the last Fallout one, where I thought the power armor would be scripted to give you limited God mode at certain times. Instead, they just went the opposite direction and gave you God mode for the entire game. So yeah, that was bad. So I really have trouble interpreting some things sometime. But let's move on to this video. Persona. I love the series. I have posters, I have t-shirts, I have everything I've ever wanted Persona wise, except for Persona 5, which doesn't come out till later this year. But I'm still excited. In fact, my desktop is Persona 5. I love it. Or I don't even know if I love it yet, but at least it's not going to be all doom and gloom like the last video. In no particular order, I'm going to go over what I think Persona 5 will have just based off the trailers and some information listed throughout the internet. And I hope you enjoy. Now, before you go all murder the crap out of me, know that I've already said I could be wrong. I'm just making some educated guesses. Alright, first of all, we're going to start it off right with the story. The story, it's going to be more engaging than 3 and 4. 3 had a story, but it didn't develop fast enough. And 4's story just got lost. It just seemed like there was all this going on, but oh hey, let's remind everybody about the thing we're supposed to be doing. Instead of hanging out, riding mopeds, and talking to a gigantic teddy bear named Teddy. It'll be more engaging, but I got a feeling the ending will be kind of like Persona 4, where it's kind of off. Kind of like there was a build up to all this, and then suddenly, oh, here's the final boss. Really? I got a feeling it's going to be like that. But at least the story throughout the game will be more engaging. Next, we move on to the influx of psychology into this. Persona's always been about psychology, especially the school of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis focuses on what Freud came up with, but more of an emphasis on where society mixes in with it. The head guy, Carl Jung, really had a lot going for him, if only he didn't base it off of Freud, because Freud was a hack. And everybody says Freud was so good, but really all of his stuff dates back to Greek. He was just putting a new face on it. When it came to the psychoanalytic school, Carl Jung and all the other accompanying psychologists discovered that there is more than we can actually ever know. But there is more ways we can tell just based on the society we live in and how we go about it. All of the stuff that brought us up in this society, plus the society that's always affecting us at the same time. If you see and listen and get the translations, you'll hear Ryuji, the blonde guy, keep on talking about it's a shitty society with shitty people in it. And since the game focuses around these characters hating the society they're in, they were brought up in it, but they just cannot stand it. They think of a better world. They got something up their butt about it. That's the easiest way to put it. So we're going to be focusing more on the psychoanalytic school rather than Persona 4, where Persona 4 mostly faced internal struggles rather than societal struggles. We can see that through just the colors of the last 2 Persona games. Persona 3 was blue. It's supposed to be dark and sad. No matter what you do, the mystery's still going to be there, and you're still going to have to go. And even at the end, it was still sad. And then we get on to yellow. And if any of y'all are DC fans, y'all know yellow stands for fear. Whenever you're doing the social links in 4, it's always about the people fearing what other people would think. You know, Kanji with his sewing, or Rise, where she didn't know what to do in her new private life in a small town because she lived as an idol the whole time and she was wondering what everybody thought about her. But now we move on to Persona 5, where it's red, dark red. Red is hatred. Red is anger. It's not going to be so uplifting as 4. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be pure hatred. It's going to have a lot more heavy metal music in it, probably. And when we go back to psychology, I know this is boring, but I'll put a picture up. In psychoanalytic psychology, there's not just the id and ego as in with Freud's method of teaching. It also includes the superego, and the superego is controlled by society. The superego is morals. Who creates morals? Morals are created by society. The main characters want to change society. They have to change morals. And throughout all the boss fights, all the dungeons, that is the main goal, as we've seen so far in these videos. I could be completely wrong. I was strolling through the videos, and I'm going to have to bring this up in some other topics as well. So please, just hold on, because it makes much more sense than I'm saying it right now. I'll give further evidence later. But right now, we're going to be moving on to the next subject, 9 dungeons. People are going to ask, why 9? Well, there's at least going to be 7 party members, and I'll get into that later. And through that, you're going to have the original. In between dungeons, you're going to add another one, add another party member, add another party member, and that's gets you up to 8. But then there's the 9th dungeon, which is going to have the final boss in. There's going to at least be 9 dungeons. There may be 10, but I may be overextending myself. And from what we've seen of the dungeons, it's going to be nice. With the structure of the 7 deadly sins, it makes even more sense, because a lot of people don't know this, but the 7 deadly sins were originally the 9 deadly sins. There were 2 others in there before it was reduced to make it easier for people to understand. First of all, envy wasn't even on the list when it was the 9 original sins. In place of envy, with the other 6, was ostentation, dejection, and prostitution. I'm going to cover all of them real quick. Dejection is when you remove yourself from society and become a loner. Ostentation, well, that was just a different type of pride. Prostitution, well, we all know what that means, but in this case, it meant the selling of body or soul for profit. Not just, being a hooker, but also giving up your own morals and what you've been taught to make money. Eventually, ostentation was put with pride, dejection was put with sloth, envy was tacked on, while prostitution was put with greed. All this together makes more sense for 9 dungeons. Now we move on to the 7 party members. We've already had 5 and a possible 6 show up in all the trailers we've seen. We got the main character, plus the 4 others that they've been just blasting in our faces, and we want to play as much as possible. However, don't you notice something with just what they've shown us? There's only 2 female characters, one of them's a cartoon cat. Persona likes to mix it up, put female and male, at least a close ratio. There's no way they're just going to keep it at 3 guys and 2 girls. There's going to be a 3rd girl and possibly a 4th boy, and if they put the 4th boy in, that means they're probably going to put a 4th girl in, making 8 members. 7 members is where we're probably going to be at. Now we're going to go into the individual character. Just some things I noticed, or possible story arcs that may involve them. It's always fun to get more attached. If you ever played Mass Effect, Persona, Dragon Age, you know that it's fun talking to the other party members, and I think that's what Persona does best. Here's some of the theories I have about it. First, we're going to start off with the blonde guy, Ryuji Sakamoto. It's possible that his name is a play off of Ryuichi Sakamoto. He's a musician that had a big influence on the entire music industry. He worked with Madonna. He even worked with David Bowie. Rest in peace. Oh my god, you just don't know how much of your music actually has this guy in it. I looked up the guy and looked at his entire collection, and holy crap, I've been practically listening to this guy my whole life. And as we've seen with Ryuji, in the first trailer, he's doing a power slide. My guess from that is that he's going to be musically involved. Maybe play the piano, guitar, and that's where his story arc is going to develop. Maybe he wants to be a rock star, maybe he just wants to be a musician. I don't know. But it definitely seems like something he would do, and all these factors that I assume are some sort of clue to who he is or what he does makes total sense. Alright, next we move on to Anne. Now, everybody's kind of been either hating on Anne or loving Anne because of the costumes, get up, and she seems kind of tsundere, but I don't know what to make of it. I know she's got an American parent and a Japanese parent. What I think is that the father or mother, who's American, I forgot to look that up, I'm sorry, they're going to force Anne to move to the States at one point, and you're going to have to go through that story arc, even though Anne's probably never going to go back to the States because that would destroy the entire story. But you're going to still hear her cry about how she doesn't fit in and how she's going to have difficulty choosing whether to stay or not, even though ultimately we know she's gonna stay. Next we have Morgana. We've seen this cat in the main character's bag. We've seen it pull off some stuff. I love the scene where it's like, hold up, I got this shit. That was just made me laugh. What do we make of Morgana? It's such a mystery. It's an enigma. I thought in standard anime form, which I know I shouldn't do for Persona, and I think she has another form, possibly more human. But she still won't be dateable, guys. That is gross. And the only thing else I could think of is that she might be linked somehow to the Persona Nekomata. Anybody who's played Persona has had Nekomata in their Persona collection at one point. It makes sense. Classic character plays with new character. All these tie-ins make the character more acceptable, and not like Teddy from Persona 4. Next, we move on to Yusuke, the blue hair painter emo guy. When he first came out, everybody thought he was something like an older brother to the protagonist of Persona 3. When you find out, really, he's just a painter who's depressed. That's not a character we've seen before. Well, at least not in Persona, but everywhere else! I don't know what to make of him, but it seems like they're trying to make him look cool, which makes me think he is going to be a very useful teammate. He's going to be the guy you take to the final boss. Unless you're one of those weird guys who's in all waifu mode. And next we move on to another character. Now this is just a rumored character. Nobody's actually seen her except for in 6 small frames where her shoulder sticks out behind the silhouette of another character. She is basically a smudge right now. People keep on saying she is. Other people say she isn't. It makes sense with the whole bringing in a more equal gender ratio. And some people say, hey, that's not the same woman voice actor. That's a different woman voice actor in this one scene in the trailer, making it seem like there's another girl. So far, she hasn't been announced yet. I got a feeling, since she's a brunette. Side note, I'm surprised she's not sort of redheaded or something, because when I watch any kind of anime or anime-like thing, they always have to have a redheaded or red-tinted, you know, the pink, orange, dark red kind of hair colors. And she hasn't shown her face yet, because that's how I put things together in my mind, that she's going to be shy. She will probably be brought into the group under strange circumstances. Like suddenly the app that the main character uses appears on her phone and she gets trapped with them. She could have been stalking the main character. She could have been even kidnapped. But that's all I can say about her. It's just that we do not know. And hopefully they release some information about her soon, because even before the game comes out, I want to plan my parties. I can't say that in a social sense ever. Now that we got that out of the way, let's move on to the next one. Acquiring new personas. Now, we haven't seen the usual shuffle animation yet. Neither have we seen the contact or communication system that we've seen in the past Persona games. And many believe that it's going to go to the communication from the past Persona games, which I'm not against. I'm just wondering how much harder that's going to be. There's also been some idiots saying it's going to be like Pokemon, but they're evil and don't listen to them. And other people are going to say that the shuffle system's just going to return. That they didn't have to show it because it's such a minor part. However, I think it might be something completely new we haven't seen yet. And it's quite possibly a similar system to Dragon Warrior Monsters. If you ever played this game, you know that collecting all the monsters was a chore. Those chances kept you gambling on it, and it was so fun. And I believe something similar to this could happen, because it says Persona Get, kind of like Monster Get. We have no idea what's going to go on with this, and it's confusing the crap out of me, because the biggest thing about Persona that I like is the fusion system. Getting each different Persona, fusing them together, is going to be so much harder if they took the shuffle system out and put the contact system back in, or the other system I mentioned. Now moving on, we have the new damage type. It is quite possible we will see a return of the water type damage. But even more importantly, since they're adding in guns and melee weapons to each character, that we'll see a return to something like Persona 3 where there was slash, bash, and pierce damage. And that would be amazing, because then it wouldn't be one person wasting all their SP to clear a dungeon. They could spread out the monsters to have different weaknesses, and that would be way more intuitive, and you would just keep on fighting and fighting and fighting, grinding. And people trying to do a perfection run through will find it easier. And also, while we're on the subject of the melee and firearm weapons, I mentioned the brunette, but we haven't seen anything from her. And if it ties in with the shy thing I guessed earlier, she's the one that's going to have a sniper rifle. Moving on, the new social stat. Persona only had 3 socials, which throughout the game you needed all of them to choose certain dialogue options. And in 4, you needed even more. So much that a lot of people played through the game normally instead of doing a perfection run on their first time so that they could have all the social stats filled to the brim by the time they do New Game Plus. And it added so much more to the game. I believe that we may even go higher. We've seen these videos of the main character working out these mini games where he's playing baseball, fighting a karate dummy, I don't know what they're called. I think that some of those will be new stats. It may not just be charisma, expression, blah, blah, blah. It may actually include physical capability. And that raises a whole new side to the social system. It kind of ties in with another thing here. I have this feeling that there's going to be more days to play. You know when you played Persona 3 or you played Persona 4, that the calendar would just skip random days. You know, you had the week you had to work at a grocery store, and you had the week you were in the hospital. It just skips days, which totally blindsides you when you think, oh, I have enough time, when you really don't. Well, now that we're on new systems, new hardware, we can move to where the calendar is longer and we can include almost all the days. I know for some story reasons they're going to skip some, but they're not going to skip as much as the past renditions because they were on the PS2 and this is on the PS3 and 4. Also, added to this, lunchtime, since it's high school, a playable time. Not just where people ask to hang out, but you could actually go and hang out with the school friends, allowing more for not social links, but something similar. And I'll move on to that later. Actually, we're going to move on to it now. The new social system. The lack of social links featured has got many people thinking that social links are just gone. Some people hate that, some people love that. Most of the people who hated it because of 4. Just whiny teenagers you have to listen to all the damn time. And the answer's so obvious to their problem, but they just can't see it, which is being a psychologist or a psychiatrist, in a way. If you haven't gone to higher education yet and you love the Persona games, check out psychology, but remember, you have to get at least a master's to get a job. Since this new social system is about hating and changing society as a whole, the past system cannot stay in place. However, there will be something like social link. People have been saying that cooperation is, but cooperation is not just social links. It's a mixture of a lot of other stuff as well. It's going to show you statistics like we saw in Catherine. I don't know, maybe it'll look like something the Telltale games do at the end of their game, showing you what other people chose as their choices as well. It'll go into how people have accomplished their social links. It'll show you their percentages of answers. It'll show you ways that people think. It's more than just what you expect. It's going to be totally different, is what I'm trying to say, from Persona 3 and 4. The social links are going to have a new format now that it's cooperation. It's going to be showing that it's not just friendships and stuff like that. It's just going to be helping people around the city. It's just a bigger system that we can't fathom yet because we haven't had any in-depth research into it. But I got a feeling that, in a sense, helping a person that is connected to a certain arcana, whether they're the Fool, the Moon, the Star, the Tower, it'll somehow affect your personas. I do not know how. I don't know if they're going to keep the lame Fusion XP boost stuff, because if that's all the personas are going to do, why even bother with social links? You could go throughout that whole game just ignoring social links. In this way, you could help somebody who's, let's say, connected to the Chariot Arcana, and that means your Aramatama will be more powerful in some way or another. But it's not going to be that 10 levels of friendliness. No, it's going to be something new and unseen. Last of all, we get to the dungeon layouts. The new dungeons look amazing. I love it. They don't look randomly generated, not like past rendition. However, this makes me very suspicious. From what we've seen of the dungeon layouts, it seems scripted, as in you're supposed to do this at a certain time. Whether it's that one scene where he's going down the hall, or the chandeliers, going through the paintings, it is very, very suspicious to me. Because I've got a feeling that those were just transition phases with the opportunity to fight monsters to get to the next floor. It's like if the stairs in Persona 3 had monsters on it that you either had to defeat or sneak around to get to the next floor. We haven't seen enough of this. It is quite possible they're just transition, and there are going to be randomly generated floors, because how are you going to grind on set floors? If they're procedurally generated, then how are you going to go find this one persona that's missing out of your collection, or you need it for a fusion? I mean, they could put it in a standard area, but that just eliminates the mystery. I mean, it's nice, but I liked how I didn't know where the end was, and they couldn't create a Brandy Games guide for it. And then you got to think about grinding for items. If there's just that one chest with that one item, it's putting your own team at a disadvantage. But there's even more to that, because we saw mini-game levels. I don't know if the rock going down the stairs and you running was just a small cutscene, or whether it was an actual mini-game, but we have definitely seen a mini-game in the mice running away from the knight. That brings up a lot of questions. What are these mini-game floors? What is their purpose? Why not have it where I could just fight people on those floors? Is it going to be a one-time, like after I beat the mini-game, can I just explore the level as normal? There's going to be mini-game floors. That's my main concern. At least one or two in each dungeon. And you got to think of these transitions, these minigame floors. All those put together create a higher number of floors than Persona 4. And more interesting, more detail. I mean, I already mentioned that. I'm drooling over how well the dungeons look. But I don't think procedurally generated will click with the past games, but it will raise the average floor count. What I'm thinking they're going to do is they're going to have some randomly generated floors mixed with some procedurally generated floors. Then you add the minigame related floors and the transition areas. All in all, it's going to raise the average floor count of each dungeon to about 20 rather than the 10 to 14 we got in Persona 4. And we're not going to be constantly climbing one gigantic tower like we did in Persona 3. Well, that's it, guys. I am no expert in this field, but I strongly feel, I got a gut feeling about this, and I know y'all just hate that. I've been wrong in the past. I can be wrong in the future. Don't worry. All of this is just gobbledygook, and you don't have to believe me. If you want to argue with me, go ahead. I'll argue with you down in the comments. It's no problem. I love meeting other fans of this series. If you have any sources to counter arguments, put those in your comment, and I will look at them, and I will read them. But please don't put porn in there. I got screwed like that on that Fallout video. Before I sign out, I want to say that I'm probably not going to have another prediction video out soon. Most likely because we barely have any information on Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm going to have to wait till E3 to get that. And this has been Red Icing Guy, signing out again.